Well, hello everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. We have a few of the core people that we usually expect, so I will get rolling. Welcome to Low Code Campfire. And as you may have noticed, I am not Dale Warner. um, so
They played him on TV.
yes, but I play him on TV, right? So Dale is not available today, so we're continuing on without him. So just a little bit about Low Code Campfire. I don't think we have anyone new, but I'll give the information for people watching it later. It's a community gathering that where people who use Plankton App come together and exchange ideas and help each other out, bring problems, bring new ideas to the group so that you can share with people. And please participate. That's what this call is all about. So all these calls are recorded and we posted them on YouTube so that you can go back and reference them for all the very useful information that we share on the call. And that's available at youtube.com/plantonapp. Our agenda is pretty simple. We'll have some introductions first, and then we'll do a first call for anybody who's really wants to jump in and seek help or share something with everyone else. We'll take a look at the contributions to Campfire website and just talk about that a bit. We'll take a look at the community website feature requests, and then if we have any submitted topics, which we didn't when I checked beforehand, we'll take a look at that. And then, of course, we'll have a last call where anybody who has other things that they want to talk about can please join. At the end of the call, we'll stop the recording and then continue on after that so that we can have a more open discussion if anybody wants to talk about something they didn't want to be recorded and go live on the internet. We do that during the afterglow session at the end of the call. Please jump in, show and tell, ask questions through the chat window. Linda and I will both be checking that out, as well as everybody else in the call. And you use the raise hand or feel free to unmute and ask your question. So having said all that, if you do unmute, if you happen to have a lot of noise in the background as a courtesy to everybody else in the call, we'd ask that you go back on mute so that we don't get too disturbed by dogs. I'm guilty, or children, or office work, fellow people in your office yelling at you or anything like that. Okay, you can submit questions and topics ahead of time. You can use this QR code to do so. And having gone through the regular spiel that Dale is so good at, I just want to open up for introductions. I'm Patrick Anderson, standing in for Dale Warner today. And hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone.
How's everybody doing?
Pretty well.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I don't see anybody new, so I don't have to put anybody on the spot and say introduce yourself. So that's good. So anyway, first call. What's going on? Anybody have anything they want to bring?
I got a couple things.
Okay, great.
First thing, big shout out to Mark Pielsing. I contracted him for being my coach, and
cool.
It worked out real well. We had a session yesterday, a couple hours. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but specifically, getting me through a couple of little hurdles, and that really helped. So thanks an awful lot, Mark. And we're going to continue doing that because I have a big project I'm trying to get out. Just been a little bit reluctant to just exactly how to drop this thing on the site, and he helped me through that. And then there'll be a couple more questions along the way, so he'll help me with those as well. So big thanks.
Awesome.
The second thing is, I was wondering if anybody has experience using the combination of Plankton App and Vanjaro. I have a project where the client wanted a very different display on just a few pages of his website. And I said the best thing here would be using Vanjaro on those pages because I could make the page exactly the way I wanted it. But then when I went to put just a very simple contact form on, I just dropped action forms on the page, it acted really weird. So I jumped on the Slack channel. I haven't heard back from Mandeep. He's really very good about responding, and maybe he missed it. But I was wondering if anybody here has had experience with that. If not, I can share when I get it working. But if anybody, what I'm seeing is it's a simple contact form, name, email, and message. And yet the form fields are flying off the right side of the page in one of his grids. Any quick thoughts about where the conflict might be?
I don't, but I will tell you that I've played some with it myself, and I had pretty limited success with it. I was able to do some simple things, but yeah, when you start putting dropping the modules on, I have seen some erratic behavior. So I can confirm that I've seen that, but I haven't. I did not go far enough with it to really find any good solutions to that.
Got it.
Anybody else?
I was waiting to see if anyone else spoke up, but because all I have is a anecdotal comment. I think I have heard of issues before with Vanjaro only because it's probably conflicting Bootstrap versions. I think Vanjaro might be bringing in a number of different than what you're using on the site.
That's
sounds
possible.
There.
Yeah, we had Mark and I ran into an issue with Bootstrap 5 and a skin from DNN Go. And it was quite simple. DNN Go has a mechanism with their theme plugin where you just turn it on. I mean, if you knew that it was there, you'd go and turn it on, and then everything works great. But this is a different situation. I don't know what Vanjaro is using for its Bootstrap, so maybe that's the issue.
I'm not sure about that either, but yeah, that does sound good. A good possibility. Thanks, Mark.
In that case, you might be well served to, if you have a simple form, use the action form with the Bootstrap 3, and then make sure you load that, check that box when you load it. So if Vanjaro is using, for instance, Bootstrap 4, that may help you get it working.
Yes, okay, that's a good
may is
idea.
an important word there. Yeah.
So you go into action form settings, and there's a choose your Bootstrap or something. I forget what it is, but I remember seeing that setting, and it says obsolete. But so what? I mean, you check it. That's Bootstrap 3, and if the page is using 4, maybe it'll be backward compatible. I get it. Okay.
Although I just need to point out, and I'm hesitant to say it outright because I don't remember if I've absolutely checked it, but I know that our plan was in 1.20 that even if you choose Bootstrap 3 we were going to still say that it was the responsibility of the skin to provide Bootstrap. I would need to go confirm that to see if those plans actually came through or not, because I can't say for sure, but just keep that in mind that, but you can always include Bootstrap by using the page header setting in the pages, the page settings, or, in your skin, that sort of thing. You can pull Bootstrap in that way as well.
On that very topic, I noticed something different in the settings on an action form module. At the top, you can choose which Bootstrap you're using, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a checkbox there for include Bootstrap.
Right. Yeah, and that is a legacy checkbox, and
that's actually being removed in the next release.
Okay, so but Linda, do you know, is it still loading Bootstrap right now if you check it, or is it just non-functional?
I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't know that it even functions at this point.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. If you do that and you don't see any change, then please consider including Bootstrap through the page. What's the setting called? I'm having trouble remembering. But when you go in under advanced settings to SEO, there's a box there where you can do an include, and it goes into your page header that'll pull in Bootstrap. And we've demoed that on some calls in the past.
Cool.
Does everybody know the setting I'm talking about, or should I just take a look at it real fast?
Not familiar with it.
Okay.
Go ahead and bring it up, Patrick.
Yeah, so if you go into Pages, Advanced, and into SEO, this section right here.
Sure.
Yep.
Mhm.
So you can do an include for the specific page right there. A very simple way, not necessarily the best approach. A better approach might be to actually put it into your skin file, but for simple testing, this will certainly do the trick.
Got it.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that topic, or another topic to think about?
Well, I would just like to say thanks to both Ben and Mark for helping me out on a particular issue. First of all, I was attempting to try to refresh an HTML module, which basically had two tokens in it. And ultimately got to the point between Mark and Ben helping out that essentially you can't refresh just an HTML module because the tokens weren't displaying kind of in real time. They were on my tabs page. So at the end of the day, what we ended up getting to was I made a form on the page, which essentially was a static text box, no buttons, nothing, just a static text box. And on the pre-init, I put the tokens in the execute tokens. So I put the my tokens in the execute mode, gave them an alternative name, put that alternative name in the text box, did 2 recursions on the tokens, and it works like a charm. So thank you.
That's really great, and yeah, thank you for bringing that up and pointing it out, because I think that that the use of the form module as a simple presentation module, it has a lot of power because of those initialization events and that sort of thing, and on our sites we use that quite often. We use the form module in that way. So.
I almost was thinking that, I don't know if it makes sense basically to spin off a separate quote unquote product, which is just an HTML module with controls.
Well, you know what's funny is that just as you were saying that, I was also thinking, and I've thought about it before, would be what if the static text field actually had HTML controls? That would
Yes.
be a good thing also. So then we could it would be a little bit easier. I think often you'd probably still want to go to code because there's other things. Another way that we use static text fields on a lot of our sites is just for putting a JavaScript on the page. So yeah, put it in the script tag, and you don't see anything in that static text module, but at least the JavaScript's there. So that's another way of using that static text.
Hey, Matthew, just another thing that popped in my head just now after you were describing what the workaround that you got. I understand how some people may not want to use the action form because it's additional overhead if all you're using it as presentation, and they would prefer to use, the HTML module and then just put a token in there and say, evaluate tokens. One of the other things you might be able to do, it's a little bit more of a backwards way of doing it, or more back-end work, I should say. But if you, let's say for argument's sake, had that token, created a API call that evaluated that token and returned its value, you can then in an HTML module write a script that would, let's say, refresh itself every X number of seconds and call that API, and then update a div control within that HTML module. Right. So you get a much faster load without the overhead of the full action form. You would just have, a timer basically going off consistently, refreshing it to make sure that it's coming back with the correct value.
Understood. Yeah, that could be an alternative. In this case, because I've got this this action form, which is basically just an HTML module from a functional standpoint, it's on tab 2, and someone can frequently go from tab 1 to tab 2, and tab 2 has to refresh as soon as they get in, as soon as they click. So in this context, it's probably, I think it should work just fine, but that's a great idea.
Yep, definitely. Cool. Any other thoughts from anybody?
I had something, Patrick, of it.
Yeah,
It seems
sure.
pretty trivial, I think, but at the same time, I'm still having an issue with it. Is we got a listing. I put it in card view, and it's a new Bootstrap 5 listing. And I wanted to show more than 4 rows. And every time I change it to anything other than 4, I save, and then it reverts back to 4. So is anyone else having an issue with that? Is it just me? Is there something in my skin or something? Anybody got anything?
I don't think I've experienced that, but I'm willing to give it a go here. I forgot that I wasn't on this listing isn't on Bootstrap 5 already, so let's see. Could have some unpredictable results here, but let's say so. Let's make this a 4. Even go lower than that. 3, and then you're saying if you go above 4 rows is when you're having issues,
Yeah,
correct?
that's it. Yeah, you can change the number and it will change. You hit save. If you refresh, if I refresh, it goes back to 4. My number rows per page. I want a bigger number. Yeah, just open it back up again and
Oh no, I need to change my page as well. So yeah, this is the fun one.
We tried to
Linda,
market that as a new feature called Zen mode. You just watch your form and your grid wave up and down.
what was the last idea that you said there? I'm sorry, I missed what the last thing that you
I
said.
was just saying refresh the settings.
Yeah,
and which is
it's
what you
set back
just
to
did.
4.
Yep, it is set back to 4.
Okay, so it's not just me.
No,
But the question is it a saving error or is it a loading the data back to display on the screen error?
I would say it's a saving error because I've got more than 4 rows of content and they don't show beyond 4. The
Okay.
paging stops at 4. And I've gotten this far where I've played with the settings and I didn't get satisfaction. Kind of noticed what I think might be a glitch in saving, but I did not try to reach into the database yet and try to change that number myself. I don't already know where to go for that, so I would be doing some investigation. I just never got that far. And I don't know how much difference it makes. Patrick, I'm trying, there you go. You had 4 rows.
yep,
You
got 4 rows.
I wonder
right
if
there.
less than 4 rows would save.
Oops, I went to the wrong module. I still have 4 rows.
Okay, so that's cool. I can report this and maybe get some action on it that way, but that's
Yeah,
reassuring that it's not just me somehow.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Mark. I'm entering a ticket as we speak on this. So
Linda, I won't do it.
so yeah, save your typing. I'm putting this one in right now.
Appreciate that.
See, that's the glory of attending the campfire.
Okay, so I have a different topic question for the group at large, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so a very short example, and then the question. The short example is, I had an issue with the listing module where I wanted it to show one card wide only, just one. The settings work fine for that, but not in my new theme. So if I switch back over to the Plan and App theme, Bootstrap 5, one card per row shows fine, just like it's supposed to. So I made a little request to my theme provider. They provided a little CSS fix overnight. I was very pleased about all that. So now I have the situation where I've got a change that I need to make in the CSS file that I know is going to get overwritten the next time I upgrade my theme. So now I need to store that information. I need a reminder system for me so that when I upgrade my theme, I'm going to do this second thing as well. So that comes down to the question, you know, there's a number of things like that. And I've got a number of sites too, so that kind of amplifies the issue. What are you guys doing to store information like that, like relevant to a particular site that you also, these notes are important to review on upgrade or in the future, or conditional, so, you know, site specific notes. What are you guys doing?
So just a side question, this setting that, this is not your question, but I'm just curious, this setting is not something that you can put in another file that will override the that CSS. It's not going to work that way.
You know, I think that is a good question, and I don't know the answer. I just got it overnight.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it's overriding CSS, you can add it to the custom CSS of the DNN framework itself.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you update your skin, the custom CSS is always going to be there.
You know, that is really good logic, and it's good to say out loud for all of us to hear. I do know of another situation. I'm trying to impact the that little black toolbar goes across the bottom of the DNN screen when you're in page edit mode.
Yeah.
And that actually runs in an iframe. And so adding my CSS to the portal CSS file did not have any impact because it doesn't reach into the iframe to impact it there. And so I still needed to change the CSS in a supporting CSS file that I had to reach into the file structure to change. And so there we go with another thing I have to remember to change next time I do a DNN upgrade. So yeah, I mean, that's a good strategy, Ben. I like that. And that is the first thing I did, was I went and tried to put it there. In my case, it didn't work.
And I think, I mean, get back to your original question, inevitably there's going to be things like that. So I definitely agree with that. There's going to be something some little thing that you change that you want to that's going to be overwritten, that you want to work. So anybody have ideas on how they're handling that sort of thing? I'm looking at Ben. Just teasing, sorry.
I actually do have an idea. It's kind of a hacky, but let's just say, for argument's sake, you know there's a file that's supposed to have a specific bit of code in it that you need. If, let's say, for argument's sake, you create an action form with maybe my token, Razor scripts or whatever, that actually opens up that file, verifies to see that that change is in there. And if it's good, come back, you know, true, everything's fine. And then in your action form, you're hunky-dory and leave it alone. If it comes back false that it's missing, you can have a static message box appear and say, the following code is missing, please add it to the file. Or you can even write actions into your form and along with my token Razor scripts to actually inject the missing code that you need into the appropriate files. And then you just put that one action form, let's say on your homepage. So every time your homepage runs, it's always going to check that these changes that must be present are always there. If it's missing, you can either set it to alert you or to enact the change itself.
Okay, now you called that a hacky thing. I called that a very, very advanced thing.
Let's just call it genius. That's what it is.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if you guys know about, but we have this thing called our Campfire website. That's contributions page here.
Hint, hint. Okay,
Hint,
so
hint, 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 Ben, can you write that?
what I did this morning, I think gives credit to Plant and App because, you know, I was thinking it through. I have in the past come up with systems. I had an announcements module that I used to just record things because it was quick and easy to set up, and I just type and get on with life. But the announcements module changed, and the templating feature got zapped, and so that kind of bit me in the butt. But today, in one site that I'm working on, I just popped into the configure screen, built an entity, let it create my form and list, and I recorded my unique little note that I had to make, and I was done in 15 minutes tops. So credits to Plant and App. That is going to be one of those interaction tools that I am not going to customize, fix to all my tweaky things that I'm going to do. I'm just going to let that ride, and I'm going to be happy that it was so easy to do. So thank you,
Cool.
Plant and App. That could be the new way for me.
Excellent.
Ben, maybe if I, graduate from my PhD, I'll be able to do all that stuff you do.
Like I said, that was just an idea because I actually, Mark, I'm always writing small mini apps and stuff like that I kind of store all the code so that I can repropagate them on any of my other sites. And one of the things that I have is a list manager along with other mini apps that use it. So I've written code where I verify, did I already install my list manager? If I did, then insert the following tables or insert the following code or doing this and that. So that's when I was thinking about that is when I came up with that idea. I was like, well, combined with my tokens, action forms, you can set it up so that, either or set it up to alert you that you're missing code or set it up so that if it's missing, just insert it.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right. Other thoughts from anybody? Other problems you're facing?
Yeah, I have I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but Bootstrap 5 form, when you go in and do too much at once with the layout, it's not happy. It doesn't always save the changes. You got to make a change, save it, make a change, save it, make a change, save it.
I can't believe you just said that. I was just about to ask about that, and it's not Bootstrap 5 only.
Okay.
Because I don't use Bootstrap 5 yet. I use 3, and I've been noticing that where I make certain layout changes, I save, and it looks like it's saved, and then I go and I refresh the screen, but my changes aren't there. And when I refresh my form, what I saved is gone, and I'm like, what just happened?
Well, here's a quick way. Rather than saving, what I do is you save it, and then you're in the layout mode, you click on the fields, go back to layout, and that will show you immediately whether or not it got saved.
Oh,
so you don't have to
that's
refresh.
okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I thought, at first I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong here?
So I'll share with you that we have discovered it, and it is in our DevOps system. So Linda, if you're curious, 3157. Yeah, we can't hear you, Linda, if you're talking.
You're muted.
No.
Oh, sorry. I was just cursing that it was a ticket, No, I'm actually noting the ticket right now that this priority on this one might need to be bumped because lots of people are seeing it.
So I think I've had a little bit of success by if I make a quick any kind of layout change. If I pop over to the other view and make a small edit on any one field, it seems like it'll save my layout changes.
Interesting.
Then I have to go back and unedit what I edited, but I think I've had some success doing that.
Good to know.
Like even something so small as if you just add a single character to
It's
a
that
field
small,
somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like I have to touch it over there. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, this screen is not aware that it really needs to save. You know, if the save button is going to light up if it knows there's been a change. And even though the save button lights up when you make a layout change, somehow I think in the background, in my mind, it seems like it doesn't know it needs to save. It's just sort of like skipping it.
Then are you able to make a note of that? Because, you know, little things like that might be something to, you know,
Yeah, tell me one more time, what
help
did
the
you,
developer. He goes
what
and
did you
just
do to
does
get around it?
just do a small edit on a field. So switch to the fields and do some sort of really tiny edit. And then it seems that the form becomes aware that there's a change in layout.
Okay.
Gotta
I'm
check
glad you brought that
those
up, Matt.
dirty field checks.
That's been bugging me. Yeah, it sure has.
Well,
See,
if
that
we're
just goes
talking
to show you there's never anything too small or, you know, to bring up to bring. So, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
let me ask something to see if anyone else has been tweaked by it. Action form, when you save and it knows that there's no changes, the save button says saved and you can't click it. Action grid will always say save.
Yep, I've noticed
And
the
it
same thing.
drives me nuts because I look at it and I say, wait a minute, did I just save my change or did I not save my change?
Yeah.
Right, and it saves
Because
the-
there's no visual that
Yeah.
it's
I can't
the
say
latest
offhand
version.
if we have a ticket for that one or not, Linda, but
That we
I think,
do
yeah.
not yet.
That
Okay.
sounds like a feature request.
Yep.
Good to know that I'm not the only one.
Anything else? Getting some good discussion here.
I've got something if no one else has anything.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I've got an action grid, and what the client wanted for this action grid is to pull data from an external API endpoint. And so I used the data source server requests, and it worked out extremely well until this week when they got enough data that the API endpoint started saying that we had to do paging to make requests, which doesn't appear to be handled at all by the server request data source. And so, I mean, I'm still working on a solution. The one idea I had was to create our own API endpoint that actually calls the external endpoint and has actions in there that handles the paging and then returns all the data. That creates, you know, double the amount of work, but it also gives a lot of positives in being able to massage some of that data before we show it in the grid. And then my other option was I'm like 85% sure I could probably write a custom data source that Plantain app could use on its data grids. But that would be the really techie developer way to do it, and probably not the low code way to do it. But I was curious if anyone else had any other solutions for handling that paging with the data grid.
It's not something that I've done. I'm sure that we've had the occasion arise. I will tell you that often our teams do use the scenario that you were talking about. We do a server request within a Plantain app API and then call the Plantain app API on the page. So that is something that is a fairly common pattern that we use. So
and that's what I figured the best
yeah.
solution was, that gave the most control and let someone who wasn't a hardcore developer make changes down the road if they needed to.
Yep. But I think the ability to have that server request data source do paging is definitely a good thing to bring up. So thank you.
Yeah, that would be super cool. Or if data grid or action grids had like an action form has the pre-init, where you can run a set of actions before it ends up on the page. If the action grid had something like that too, where you could essentially put together your own entity list, right, and then bind the action grid to that entity list, that would be pretty cool as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other cool thing
I
about this
smell
call.
a feature request coming.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Cool thing about this call is good ideas like that. Yeah. So in addition to the Campfire contributions page I was just showing you, I want to make sure that everybody's aware that we have this page here called for feature requests. Sorry, I know you all know this. I'm just.
I keep putting them in there. That's job security for me, you know.
Not me, Patrick. I haven't seen that page yet.
Oh, really? Oh, you haven't? Okay. Well, it's funny. I see this picture that looks a lot like you.
Oh, yeah. That guy gets me in so much trouble.
So on that note, let's just take a look here where we are. So I had a couple things that I might maybe I'll come back to these. There's a couple things that I put them in here so that in case you all were very, very quiet. They're fairly simple, but I was going to subject you to them anyway. In case you all, but we've had good conversation. But so but I do just need to we don't have any I know I've mentioned this already, and we don't have any new contributions, but I need to make sure that I just for people watching this later, remember that we do have the site campfire.plantingapp.com, where most of the people on this call have done some sort of a contribution here and or used these contributions, and so this is really a powerful thing. And I encourage everyone to share things here that it's things that you've figured out, that you've accomplished, that you want to that you think might help somebody else, and that's what this is all about. And we really appreciate the input that everybody's made to this. So then, going back to the slideshow here.
Looks like Matthew, you have your hand up. Do you mean to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed, I do.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
There in the Bootstrap 3 version of Action Form, the radio buttons can encapsulate your text. That's not, to my knowledge, available in the Bootstrap 5 version. There's a radio button that gets placed beside the content. And I understood, perhaps incorrectly, but I understood that was going to be coming in an update. Am I A, correct? And then B, does
you mean the ability to that option to make the radio boxes into just buttons that that
choice
option,
1, choice 2, choice 3.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure what the status of that is right now. But yes, right. In Bootstrap 5, it's not working right now. And
it is in the list. I don't have any insight as to where that one happens to be prioritized just yet, though.
Can I bump that somehow?
Do we have it?
I'm finding the ticket number for it. I'm trying to find the ticket right now.
Yeah, Linda will give you her Venmo number.
Well, that's kind of
She takes Bitcoins.
I know it's supposed to be.
Don't we
That's
all?
supposed to be our secret gun.
Oh gosh.
If it were a feature request, we could all upvote it. Talking about the topic of bumping it.
Yep, there's that possibility, but also I'm sure what Linda will do, because I happen to be witnessing the fact that she's already done it for one thing that we've talked about on this call, is she will go in and put a comment in the existing ticket to say that we had a mention. So she'll definitely do that.
So Linda, I'm going to need your email address. For all the things I want to get to the top of the list.
It's Dale Warner at plantingapp.com. That's what he gets for not showing today.
I've got another question if no one's got anything else. I've got another question if no one has anything else that they want to talk about. I'm sure someone's got an easy answer to this. It's one of those things that drives me crazy, and I hit it again this morning. When I'm updating a workflow and I need to add an action into the workflow, I have yet to find a rhyme or reason when I click add new item where it shows up in my list, and it usually puts it in the wrong place and moves my arrows around someplace else. So like if I want to insert one someplace in my existing workflow, what do I need to have selected to put it right in the middle? Like if you want to add one right after your log event one there.
So here's
isn't there a button specifically?
Yeah,
for it?
here's the practice
there
that I like to use. So let's say I want to do something after that load user event. I just take all these, drag them over to an appropriate amount, and then I escape out of that, and then go to load user, and then insert here like that.
You add it from there. Okay, I always
Yeah.
go to the top and add, and
Yeah,
I've never paid attention.
Yeah, so this
I
is
knew it was
that's
an
the
easy
easiest
answer.
way.
Because
Yeah.
if you just add one, it just adds it wherever, and it gets really annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's way easy. I
So,
knew there was an easy answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the best way to get it where you want to go. Now, just I think if I have that, okay, so it put it at the end. It didn't do what I thought. I thought maybe if I had this one highlighted and added, but it put it at the end.
That was my thought too. Yeah, if you want to have a fun morning, just add them from the top, and then it kind of throws them places and it gets exciting.
Yeah, and then moving them around is
And if you got a
then
big
your
workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're big workflow, you got arrows that start going everywhere and crossing themselves.
Your arrows are all wrong.
Then you delete the wrong one, and it's fun. But okay, that's way easier. I'm sure I knew there had to be some easier.
Yeah, and these tools, I think a lot of people tend to just ignore them, but they can be useful for something like that right there to create some space there. Just you got to make sure that once you do that, what you do is escape key to get out of it, because then if you don't and you click again, then you might start really messing stuff up. You do what you need to do, and then escape key to get out of it. So that's another useful thing there. Cool, thank you, David. Anybody else? If not, I'm going to go to my little things that I had here, just to see if anybody's experienced this and thought about it a little bit. So this is pretty simple stuff, but I know I'm a very advanced group here, but I just wanted to mention it. So this is something that a client was working on, and they have this scoring system. These numbers are not the actual numbers that create scores. You can see I added a 4 there, and I got 80 points. And so there's obviously values behind this. But then if I come over here and on this one here, and I happen to choose the blank value, see what happens to my score there, and they were really struggling with this, thinking, what can we do here? And I don't know. I'm actually curious if anybody has discovered a way to get rid of the first blank value. I think that would be something really useful, that if we had that option to just not have that first blank value. But just to share with you the solution here that I put in, which is, it's simple and straightforward, but I just have a bind expression on here, and if the value is blank, it makes it 0, and that solves the problem pretty nicely. Anybody experience this? Have any other ideas? So now if I get my field token here. Oh, did not do that right. Oh, did I time out? There we go. So now I can do these as well, and then come back here and set this to a blank value. And I come back to here, set to blank, and I don't mess up my scoring. So just wanted to share that with you guys, and it's straightforward and simple, but any thoughts on that? Cool. Another one I've been working on, and this one is really perplexing because it works great on my test site, but for the person who's having the issue, it's not working at all. But this is a really basic auditing system. So we're basically on this right here on this grid, if I go to put in, no, not a new value, if I edit a value, an existing one, so let's edit this one, and looks like my buttons got messed up when I changed to Bootstrap 5 there. And I'll just do some updates here, just put in some changes for the email address, first name, last name, click on update, go back to my auditing table here and just refresh this. And I see that I have, a record here of what the values were. And I'm sure that some of you have done things like this. It's pretty straightforward to set up. Under configuration in automation, I have this automation right here, and it's a monitoring those specific columns in the contact table, and there's a entity called auditing history, which I'm showing there. And basically, if oh, I didn't put my conditions in here. That was I need to go back and do that. But what I'm supposed to have here is a condition saying that if the first name before value is not equal to the first name value, then this runs and updates. So pretty straightforward. This is completely broken on another site, and I have checked all the details, and same versions of Plant and App and the automation. So I'll keep on checking that out, but I wanted to share this with anybody to see if they've had issues with something like this in the past with these database triggers.
I haven't had any issues with that. I haven't done anything like this, but just out of curiosity, it's that old saying of, turn it off and turn it back on again. Have you tried deleting the trigger and re-adding the trigger? Could it be that the trigger itself got corrupted?
Yeah, that's entirely possible, and I will check that out, because that's what's happening is the automation is just simply not running. It's not that the actions aren't working or anything like that. The automation, you're exactly right. The automation is just not running. So maybe if I do delete the trigger and add it back, that might potentially solve the issue, and I will try that.
I have had that happen before, and I believe I deleted the trigger and added it back in. I know for sure that that's happened a few times.
Yep. Cool. Anybody have any other thoughts?
Okay, yes, I've got another one.
Oh, cool.
Especially
Yep.
since Linda's here taking notes. I have recently, I've been working with the listing module. Maybe you've picked up on that. There's been an issue that I just uncovered, first time for me. Maybe you all know about it already, but if I want to do it in regular data table view, and I want to control the widths of the columns, there is a setting for each column where you can tell it what number of pixels or what percentage. However, what I've discovered is that influences the content that you're putting in the column. It doesn't influence the column itself.
The header.
Well, it's a cell in a table, and so the cell, it continues to be whatever width it wants to be, and as an end result, it's not what I need. I need to. I have an icon next to a full sentence of text, and I want the icon width to be really small, so that the text can be wide, and I can set those width settings, but it's only influencing my icon and my text. It's not influencing the cell that has its own setting for width.
Is this a BS3 5
It's a 5
issue or just 5?
It's 5.
I need to. So you noticed when you started talking, I switched slides here to the feature requests. So yeah, well, no, because he's already done it. That's why I switched to, because the next thing is to go. My next thing here is to go and look at feature requests, and Mark put in a feature request talking about this.
I try to be pretty good at it. If I notice stuff, I try to make a record.
So so help me understand this better, because you can probably see here that I have set actually a column width on this column right here. And as you all remember, at the beginning of this call, I still had this was still a BS3 grid when I started this the call, because you guys witnessed me changing it to a BS5 page. And so this appears to still be working. So if my column width, which I set to 150, I think, that my email address there would be, it would take up more width there, and the email address column would be wider. So when you, I am trying to understand, when you say that you have the icon and then text, are there two separate columns in the grid?
Yes, 2 columns.
Is it? And so what's not happening? Is that something you can share with us just so I can see it better?
Let me get ready to do that while
Okay, all right. Yeah, sure.
So many tabs open, I got to find the right one. But
yeah, I understand.
I think in your example that you've got on the screen, if you were to remove all but 2 or 3 columns, I think you might see that would be a good test, because
okay,
what's going on is, there are so many columns, they're pushing on each other, and making them more narrow. And when you only have a few, that's when you see it.
Let me just see if none of these have any data in them. So if I just remove these, if that does anything else. Let's see. Save that. Reload. Okay, so yes, I see the column. So right. So my email address is still wrapping, but I have all this extra space here. Is that?
Yeah, and in that case, I have an icon in that first column, and it's only 75 pixels wide. And yet I'll have that much space that you have, or I actually have more because I only have 3 columns. But yeah, so yeah, I can't control the space.
Yeah, and is this something that, if you recall, was this, and I'll test it, I'm just asking if you recall, was this something that worked differently with the BS3?
I do it all the time, so I know in BS3 it actually adjusts the column itself.
Yeah, okay. Cool, all right.
Yeah, I expected to control the column. That was logical to me that it would, but it did not.
Mm-hmm. This kind of highlights something else that I've been that's on the list as well. So yeah, cool.
Well, just as a side note, on top of that discussion, is that I have a solution on my one use case, and that is I wrote some JavaScript that will resize the column.
Yeah, okay.
My specs, so I have a solution for myself, but I thought maybe the product, if you're going to be able to if you can give me a setting to control the width, it should control the column width as well. Or maybe separate settings for each. I don't know.
Yep.
Don't make it too complicated. No multi settings, please.
Yeah.
Then we'll be wondering, what's this one do versus this one, and
yeah, and that is really we find that challenging to draw that line, like between giving all the function, as much functionality as we can, but then on the flip side, you can tend to make things too complicated, and it's really hard to to figure out what all the different things mean and what they do. And so that's a
right. And in this particular case, I don't really need a setting to control my content width. I really only need it to control the column.
And the use case for that, I'm not really sure I would, I see the use case for that, but definitely, controlling the column width will take care of this as well. So, yeah.
On a side note, Patrick, you guys ran ahead. My brain is still thinking about other things.
Yeah, sure.
The calculation that you showed, where you said, "Does anyone have any ideas?" My question to you is, how are you calculating that number from those drop downs?
It's just a simple bind value.
Wouldn't it be easier to check on the bind if the value is blank and substitute it with the 0 than changing every single drop down to say that if you select a blank, make it 0? That way it's just one location. to
So
have
it's
to
it's
manage.
just a bind value. Yeah, so we could do it in a, but we're not. It's not being done in a JavaScript. It's just being done in a bind value. Is that where is that here? Oh, that was this one. No, which one was it?
You had it, that one.
Yep.
This one here.
Yeah,
Yep.
that one.
So it's just being done in this one here, just as a simple value. So I see what you're saying is that if we did it in the JavaScript, we could check the value. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
how I would do it, only because it would drive me crazy to have to update every single drop-down value. I would want to make my life easier and also, you know, 1 point of update as opposed to, you know, 15.
Yeah.
So
that's
I would just write it in there and say,
Yeah.
if value equals quote, quote, make it 0, you know, consider it a 0.
Yeah. Yeah, point taken, definitely, because then you have one spot to go. I think for some people, the very simple JavaScript, maybe that might be, you know, this, because this this JavaScript here is fairly easy to comprehend. You know, there's not a whole lot of complication right there. So for some people who aren't, you know, as familiar with that, this might work better for them. But I think I definitely get your point that to have 1 point of making the calculation, if we did it here, definitely.
Does that value area there, I don't see that it says it. Does it accept my tokens?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, these are field tokens. I think you can do my tokens here as well.
Because the only other thing
no. I'm sorry. I backtrack for a second, because this is these are bind expressions, so this is front end. So the tokens aren't being evaluated. Tokens are evaluated at initialization. Yep. So yeah, only the form tokens and context are going to work there. Your mind was just was whirling the entire time, wasn't it?
Pretty much. So you said that's front end. So that value is Java.
So if the value of this field right here changes, this will reevaluate. This value will reevaluate.
But is that accept? It says use standard JavaScript operators. Does it accept JavaScript commands?
Actually, it might. Yeah, I think that it
because
maybe. Yeah.
You could do the same thing there with an IIF statement.
Yep. Yep.
So if you encapsulated all of those with IIF and say, I mean, it'll make it significantly longer because there's so many, but you could encapsulate it right there and say IIF value equals blank, comma, 0, else its original value. And that'll do the same thing. You don't have to actually write anything in the on change click area.
Cool. I think it's worth a try. Mark, you have a comment?
Yeah, it's not related, and I could actually hold it if you would like.
No, that's okay. I think that yeah, thanks, Ben. I think that's also a good idea, worth checking here too. So yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so my question is, can the data source that you program to supply data to a drop-down list of any kind, can it hold additional columns of data beyond value and text?
So, you know, I think all of you know, I mean, I've been using this for a long time, and Ben, maybe you feel the same way, but I feel like in the past, a long time ago, I did something like that and it worked, but I've tried that more recently and I haven't been able to get that to work.
You know, I used to do that in Microsoft Access when I had a drop down, and it had you could have unlimited columns, and you could get to them too. You could grab them.
Right. So I have
I want again.
I know I have so wanted the same thing. So I feel a feature
So-
request coming on.
Mark, I've built a couple item data sources. And so I'm looking at my code right now for some custom ones that I've built for a client that we plug into their Plantain app. And there's only two values on that object, and it's the text that gets displayed and the value behind the scenes. So at least based on that class and the ones that I've built, you can't append any extra data to that from what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, that's been my experience. Definitely, because I've tried to do this, you know, in the recent past, and exactly what you're saying is exactly my experience. But I do feel like that at some point in the past I was able to do something like this, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just imagining it. I can't be sure. But
No, I want
I
that.
think it's yeah.
It creates more work because you know I get an ID, then I have to in a later process I have to go look up that ID to get the additional information that could have been sitting right there.
Right. Yep. I think
Yeah.
it could be an incredibly useful thing. It really
Yeah.
could.
Well, and then I'm looking,
Oh.
the value can be an object, at least based on the list item class for the item data source. And so there may be a way to finagle it to put the whole object into the value field. I haven't played with that.
Well, yeah, similar to that, I got kind of frustrated one day and I thought I'm going to figure this out. And so I actually did, I stuffed XML data into the text field and I let the ID do its thing. And then after the dropdown would occur, I used JavaScript to unparse the XML, and I would have all the additional columns that I wanted to. And I was really happy until after using it for a short time, I realized that sometimes the JavaScript wasn't firing, or it wasn't firing fast enough, or it was firing too soon or too late. So I couldn't get the timing to be consistent enough to rely on it. So, but yeah, I mean, I did get kind of creative. I had all the columns I wanted, but it wasn't reliable.
Well, I'll say that I've never been able to get it done in the past, but I have come up with situations where I needed a third piece of data minimum to make a determination whether, let's say, other things would appear or disappear on the form and things like that. And unfortunately, couldn't even use my tokens to do that because of the way the binding works, since the binding runs client side and doesn't re-evaluate those my tokens. You couldn't even do it from that perspective because that would need a callback to the server.
Yep.
So the data had to be accessible to the client at that moment. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So I've had issues where I've hit that same thing, and I've always wished that we had the ability to do additional hidden columns in the
I can't remember what my
data.
solution was in the situation I was in. I honestly can't remember where I was even doing it, but I think what I did was I think I used an API call on change click, and then took the value I got back from my API call and put it into a hidden field. I think, which is, you know, it would be so much easier if it was just, you know, if it was just there in the data source. But I think I did something along those lines.
Yeah, unfortunately, something like that wouldn't work if you're, for argument's sake, doing a bind check on another field to hide.
Yeah.
You know, because of the way the execute action stack works.
Right. Yep.
It's like Mark said, it'd be that timing thing. Your API would get the data, but your other bind already checked and it wasn't there at that moment.
Yep.
Yeah, you made me remember, Ben. I think one or twice I've done another drop down and bound it to the first one so that the change would trigger another change. And on the second one, I would go look up the additional piece of information that I needed that I wished was in the first one. And so one caused the updating of the second. And I had my additional information there. And then I would hide the additional drop down because I didn't want people to see it. I just wanted the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Matthew, let's take your comment, and then probably should wrap it up because this has been a great discussion. We're a little over time here.
So I have a question back to the previous JavaScript discussion. is it possible to, your first choice in the drop down essentially is a blank entry.
Mhm.
Is it possible to not have a blank entry?
Right, and that was my first thing that when I brought that up, my first question was to all of you to see if anybody had discovered a way to do. I looked a little bit into it, and I didn't discover a way to get rid of the first blank entry. I'd like it if there was an option to do that or something, but I didn't find it. So you can put some text that appears, but it doesn't do away with the fact that that's still a blank entry even if you put text in there, and that's the only setting option. And I didn't. Is probably something through JavaScript you could accomplish, but I just didn't go that far with it. This was a pretty easy solution. So
Challenge accepted.
No, I've addressed that one before. It's not an answer the way you asked it, Matthew, but I wrote a little JavaScript that will automatically advance the dropdown to the first real entry past the blank.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if that helped you or not. It's not really an answer to the way you asked it, but so you don't see the blank. It's not in your face.
Yeah.
Right.
And it basically makes it so you can't select it. Right. Basically, you can't select it. Is that?
I think you could if you hit the drop arrow, then it would still be above where you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying is basically what I've accomplished here, pretty much, is that if they select the blank, they're automatically selecting 0.
Right.
That's basically what's happening here. If you select the blank value, it switches immediately to 0, which is the first option in the list.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
All right. Well, this has been once again just a great call, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. Everybody jumping in and we didn't get to any ghost stories. So anyway, I'm just going to advance to our last slide here, and thank you all very, very much for everything you do and for being here.